I'm Damon Lewis, and co-host Andrew Fritz. Today we have a special guest, Louis Minero. Louis is the author of Demystifying the Out-of-Body Experience, which I've read. I read it a while ago. I thought it was a great book. And he also is a teacher instructor. Uh, he helps teach out-of-body experiences. So we thought that he'd be a great guest to have as our first guest. So, welcome.
Yeah, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, the first question that I thought I would ask is kind of a longer part question. I want to hear something that Andrew and I have been talking about is like our backstory, but like a chronology. If you can kind of give us how where you kind of started till today with your energy work and meditation, and maybe if you have a few like breakthrough moments, just kind of give us a sense of like where you started out, where you are today, and was there aha moments during your journey with energy work and meditation?
Yeah, and I guess out of body experiences as well, right? Uh,
Sure.
eh, yeah, really for me, when I was 12, I had my first OBE and it was involuntary, spontaneous. And really before that, I hadn't had sensations of disconnection. I hadn't had, the sensation of vibration that many people describe, the vibrational state or anything. But I actually just happened to have an OBE on one afternoon. I was, guess let me try to summarize the story so as not to give all the details. But way back when, I had my dad had bought me a computer, and in the 80s, the computers really didn't have an operating system like today, and they were not able to do everything that they're able to do today. But it was, and the brand actually, you guys are probably gonna laugh, was Atari. So this
Um,
wasn't the Atari game; it was actually an Atari computer, and you would hook it up to a TV, you would turn it on, and just had the basic programming language. So I had to learn to program, play around with it, meaning I would code a couple of little programs. I was a kid, and then it actually didn't have a hard disk, and that was the cruelest thing, because when you turned it off, everything was just simply wiped from the computer. So next day you had to start from scratch. Anyways, I had the habit of coming from school, putting my hands on the keyboard, and before turning it on, I would stare at the actually I had that old black and white TV at that time in my bedroom, and I would just stare at it and think about what I was going to do. And that on that specific day, I started to become sleepy. And since it was in my bedroom, I just went to my bed, lie down, took a nap, and then maybe like a half an hour or 40 minutes later, something around there, I realized that I again was staring at the black and white TV, and I was thinking about the program. And probably because it was a more intellectual activity, is that I started to become aware, first of all, that I was still thinking about the program, but second, I started to realize, wait a second, didn't I go to sleep? Wasn't I sleepy like an hour ago? Did I sleep or didn't I? And then, when I sort of like turned around to see my bed, I saw my body, and I was very clear that, whoa, I am sleeping. And I went into my body very quickly and woke up, and I knew that something different had happened. I didn't have a name for it or anything, but I remember I was thinking, but I was there, but I was here, but I was there, but I was here. And honestly, I just didn't know what it was. I had never heard, I had never heard a word of, how to call it, a technique, nothing. It just simply occurred out of the blue. And then after that first, when I started having them, maybe not with a lot of frequency, but maybe one a year or one every 10 months, something like that. And even when I was 16, I remember after I had one, that they weren't a big deal. I was just simply, I was aware, I was conscious, but I wasn't like going anywhere because I really didn't know even that you could go anywhere. So I was most of the times just floating about my bedroom, or I would somehow I regained the awareness, and I was floating in the living room, and I would see my dog walking around in the middle of the night, going to his water bowl or something. And then I would come back. So, nothing earth shattering. It was just a very mundane experience. And I really didn't even know how to call them. I remember sometimes I would think, I wish I could have that cool dream, because it was the only way for me to refer to it. But I didn't know how to induce them. And it wasn't until I was 17 or 18 or so, I must have been like a junior in high school or so, that my mom actually, I mentioned it to my mom. She bought me the first book, and that had a reference to it. The author is Lobsang Rampa. This was a guy who wrote a lot of books in the 60s and 70s. And they have been translated all, to a lot of languages. So anyways, he referred to it as astral travel, and he had actually written a book that, talked a little bit more about it. And that's when I started, okay, there is information, and they call it, astral travel or out-of-body experiences. So that's what got me really into, starting to look for information, start to look for more books. Then I found, other, colleagues of mine that had already pulled a lot of information, including, based on the writings and the teachings of Dr. Vieira that you probably must have heard in Brazil. And his big book of, projectiology, he was trying to, and I guess he tried as much as he could to put together a science that would talk about out-of-body experiences, right? So in that book, there were a lot of techniques and things, and also with my colleagues here, I, was able to develop more my skills, and that's when I started, being able to induce them, at first from time to time, on my own. That was for me a very big aha moment, that I realized this is not just something that can happen to me sporadically and I have no control over it, but it's actually something that you can develop, that you can, improve on. And I remember still the first time that I was able to disconnect on my own, that outside the body, I was like, yes, this is doable, this is possible, I can do it. I must have been 23 or so. I was still in college. And then after that, yes, my skills kept on improving. Now, something that helped me quite a bit, that you mentioned there a little bit, was precisely that I understood that the works with vital energy or bioenergy, could help quite a bit. Because before that, I had never even heard about it. Actually, the first time that I heard about vital energies, honestly, to me, I know it might sound like a cliche or like something strange, but at that moment when they first mentioned it to me, I thought somebody was talking to me about Star Wars. Like, like when Obi-Wan Kenobi used to say, Luke, reach out with the Force or something like that, because they were saying, send energy to me. And I was like, send what? It really took me a little bit to wrap my head around it, because for me, it was a very new concept. Even though I had out-of-body experiences, I hadn't put the, one and one together. So it was completely new. But that helped me quite a bit, to start to practice energy techniques, both the being able to send it and absorb it, at will, and also to do the vertical flow or the closed circuit of energy, as it's called in some circles, or the Belo, as it's called in others. So that type of exercise helped me quite a bit to get up, to get control over my own energetic abilities. And yeah, really after that, things kept on improving. I kept on having more out-of-body experiences. And I think that one of the biggest things that I realized is that the techniques in and of themselves, both of leaving the body and of energies, are not that mysterious or that difficult, really. But that the main key towards the development of all of these is just really repetition. It's just really, like going to the gym, just running on the treadmill is really not a mysterious thing. It's just that we have to do it with some regularity, otherwise, the 20 pounds from the Thanksgiving turkey is just still there, and it doesn't go away. So that's really what it is. It's just It's just repetition. It's just regularity. It's just keeping at it. And then, yeah, you keep on improving. And then, of course, after giving classes, I started giving classes with my colleagues and giving classes in so many places, really, to so many people. I thought that some written material was missing, so that people could follow along with the classes, but that they could also refer. And that's obviously the reason where my book, the Demystifying the Out-of-Body Experiences, comes. So that also, I think, was a big a big challenge. But I was glad. I was glad to produce it, to talk to a lot of different people who have out-of-body experiences, even people from the Monroe Institute and other institutions that I was not helping or volunteering for. So even other external individuals who had their own experiences, and that certainly helped me to put a lot of information together. So and then nowadays, yeah, we're still giving classes. It's interesting to see how, obviously, this is not mainstream. Not it's not as known as, I don't know, as other things, as Keeping Up with the Kardashians or something like that. But the people who come to the classes, they know about it. They have had a certain type of experience, and they're certainly very thirsty for knowledge, for understanding, and for developing their own skills further. So yeah, we keep giving classes nowadays, mainly online, and also just before the pandemic, I was just trying to travel also a lot to other countries, to third world countries, to developing countries, Asia, Africa. I was in Uganda a couple of years ago, Cambodia, Indonesia, just trying to go and give classes, not just of out-of-body experiences, but of whatever was their need. Sometimes it really was just very basic information. And the reason why I'm saying this is because something that I realized is that sometimes, having the time to concern yourself with developing out-of-body experiences, with a certain amount of time that I have seen things both in and outside the body. So having that time to develop out-of-body experiences seemed to me that it's a luxury that just in some countries and in some places we have, but other places they have needs that are so basic that I realized it's great that I can, teach the things, here, but I also need to dedicate some of my time, to try to help the others that are really not, at this level of resources. Let's put it this way. So that's also why, and I had this epiphany really in an OBE. So that's also really why, I started to go a little bit into these other places also to help. So I think in a nutshell, that
that's
summarize
cool.
things.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
So yeah, I had a question. I think so. You were saying maybe around 17 or maybe closer to 23, where you're learning more how to kind of induce those experiences. I imagine maybe you started kind of with, you're just in your room, kind of seeing your body, or kind of being close proximity to your body. What were your initial breakthroughs where you were going beyond, say, your bedroom or your house or apartment, and what was that kind of looking like, kind of when you're making those breakthroughs?
Yeah, I think that at the beginning, the main thing that I wanted was to try to produce the disconnection, on my own, to be able to induce it, on my own. And it wasn't the easiest. One of the first, so it wasn't so much about distance, about going so far away from my house, but just simply about, like developing a little bit I guess the proficiency to disconnect on my own. And that first technique that I was trying back then, one of the ones that Lobsang Rampa, by the way, I'm mentioning this name not because I think he's the best ever author on out-of-body experiences. It's just, it was the first one I read.
Mhm.
And he used to call it, I guess in English would be like the transfer of consciousness technique, where you are sort of like sending energies above you and trying to create like a vessel of energies above you. And then you very strongly using your will, you try to make your consciousness go into this vessel of energies that you have already prepared. And that's what prompts the out-of-body experience. You basically go outside of your own physical vessel into this energy vessel that you had already created. And that one, I had some success with it. I was able to find others that were a little better for me. That's probably why it took me a couple of years working with that one. But you're in college, you somehow have a little more time
Yeah.
than when you grow up to try all of those things. But yes, even then, in terms of distance, I did have some experiences in which I would go a little bit further out and I would be on the street already. And by that time, I realized that I was having out of body experiences. This I already, had books, the name, everything. So as opposed to the beginning, so that wouldn't surprise me.
Did Did you have
Yeah.
a breakthrough of like figuring out how to go from what is sometimes referred to as the real time zone, going into the astral realm itself? Did you have any breakthroughs with that, like going at a higher level?
Yeah, like going to another dimension. Yes,
Right.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. So not in I guess not so much in terms of distance, like of me going outside the body. I don't know, to the Patagonia or to the North Pole or something like that, but just simply changing in terms of realities, of dimensions. Yes, that started to happen, and what I realized is that it was related to sort of like the frequency of our thoughts, if I can put it in this fashion. So on some specific nights where I had even seen, let's say, a movie or something, and I was more in a specific frequency of ideas, it seemed that my bedroom, my house would sort of like fade away a little bit, sometimes very fast, or sometimes even when I would regain the awareness outside the body, I was already like in a different place. But because I had already had a few out of body experiences before, I realized I am just as aware, just as conscious. Like right now, you after a while, how could I say, you don't doubt it at all, because you are as clear, as lucid, as conscious as right now. So I knew that I was in an out of body experience, but the experiences were different. Sometimes I could see, or at least now I have better words to describe it. Sometimes you could see, just a lot of fog, which was basically energy and some structures. And to have something to relate to, it looks a little bit like these images that we see of when it's very foggy in London, type of a thing. So that some of those realities at the beginning, I remember they were extremely foggy and, like a road and structures. And I realized this is not, Miami, Florida, where I lived at that time. You don't get fog like that at all in Miami. It's just, sunny the entire time, or raining. So so I knew I was somewhere else already at that time. And at the beginning, it was really just exploring, different realities, different dimensions. Also my OBEs at that time, they would last a few minutes probably, and then something would surprise me and would bring me back. And I think that a lot of them at the beginning were precisely trying to understand how to overcome these like mini obstacles, if you will, that would cut my OBE short. So as for me, not to react so much to different things that I would see. Sometimes they were just simply energetic things. Sometimes they were, just something energetic that was a very different color, or a flash of light, or I would find that a structure, a house, was just simply floating, and this would surprise me, and just that surprise would bring me back into the body, so to speak. So trying to, or another thing that sometimes at the, at least it was a little bit surprising to me was when you would find, for example, I don't know if to call them plants or trees. I guess that would be the word that is a little bit more equivalent here, or this sort of like type of trees that I knew they didn't exist in the physical reality, but they existed here, and you were seeing them, and they worked differently. Some of them, sometimes it seemed like they were, sort of like upside down or growing horizontally. It was just simply different. Let me use the adjective different. I wouldn't say necessarily better or worse, just simply different. The first time sometimes that I would see some of those things, it would surprise me and bring me back into the body. But then here analyzing things, okay, it was just an experience. It's probably just a different type of flora. You can go beyond that. So I would like pump myself up, in the next experience, I would, react with a little bit more calm, and I would, try to understand it a little bit better. So some of those experiences also develop like that, just trying to overcome smaller obstacles, so to speak.
Cool.
Yeah.
Do you think that, with like meditation, being able to practice maybe being neutral or calm or composed, do you think someone who practices that, would that be helpful if they start to have out-of-body experiences and come across these maybe strange or different things? You think that would help them prepare for something like that?
Yeah, I think so. I think so, for several things, not just for elements that are different, but even for the process of the takeoff and for doing the exercises. There are several skills, I guess, that when you're meditating, you develop, just the ability to stay focused and centered within yourself. That is going to help quite a bit. Yeah, there are certain things. Meditation is great, actually. Many times I say, and other friends of mine now from Mosaic say that too, that the world would be a much better place if everybody meditated. It just would be a lot better. Just because there are so many, benefits out of it. And sometimes you also have out-of-body experiences, of course. So, and it's because of those elements that sort of like they share the ability to stay focused, the ability to, even though you might be feeling your body or something discomfort in your body, you're able to stay within, your own thoughts, within your own line of thinking, looking at yourself. That will be very helpful. Yes. Because even as you're seeing things that are external to you, you're also aware of what is the effect of that within you, and you can try to, control it a little bit better.
Right.
And that would be one of my questions. One of my challenges when I'm doing the velo, is really conceptualizing, because I can have my awareness on my energy moving up and down and feeling different effects from that energy movement, but having the full conception of what exactly I'm doing, whether it's meridians, chakras, and all the different energy bodies, I still have trouble conceptualizing what I'm really doing with my energy. I kind of feel like I'm blind, stumbling in the dark,
Yeah.
in a way. And just I'm feeling stuff, but I don't know exactly what's going on.
Yeah. In what you're describing, by the way, there, Damon, is common at the beginning, because it's you're moving the energies and the specifics of where they're going or what is it that they're activating. Sometimes it's difficult, especially at the beginning, to pinpoint. But the movement itself, it's really the exercise is a little bit more of a general thing, like you're probably doing it, moving it, moving the energies down and up, and they start to activate a lot of different aspects of your energetic system. And generally speaking, they tend to activate especially more, they tend to make a greater effect on the area that maybe was less active. That one is usually the one that tends to improve a little bit more. But during the exercise, my recommendation would be maybe not to focus too much on each specific chakra or meridian or nadi, just just the general flow. And even further, try even to increase the volume, the amount of energy that you're moving through the body, and trying to keep that under control with keeping your focus so that it activates your entire system more. I think that in the practice, usually that tends to produce better results. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Obviously, there are other energy exercises in which, yes, you're focusing, let's say, on just sending energy through one energy center, right? Or etc. Or feeling an energy center from somebody else, a specific aspect. But during the vertical, we call it vertical flow. During the vertical flow, this exercise here, moving the energies vertically, yeah, it's more about the general movement of the energies and really trying to increase the volume and maintaining it, under control, I guess, as you keep the focus.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So when it comes to out-of-body experiences, I think when people start to get into it and read online or read books, the topics of sleep paralysis pops up, and even the vibrational state and the vibrations.
Yeah.
Some people say you have to experience that to or go through that to have an out-of-body experience. Some other people say that they don't even experience vibrations sometimes, or they can just leave their body without going through the putting their body to sleep. Could you talk a little bit about that, just from your experiences?
Yeah. I would say none of them are a requisite. None of those sensations, the vibrational state or the sleep paralysis or others, and even studies have been done about that. I think I don't remember if in my book I have something like that. Now I don't remember, but I think so. I think that about half of the people who have out-of-body experiences feel the vibratory condition, the vibrational state. And I think that the sleep paralysis, if I remember correctly, was also somewhere around half, maybe a little bit less but they're both around half, if I remember correctly. Now, so what this shows is that, you don't necessarily need to feel that a specific, sensation in order to have the out-of-body experience. And really, which sensations people feel depend quite a bit on their type of body, the type of energetic body that they have, and even the type of non-physical body, the type of astral body or psychosoma that they also have, which this is something where a lot more research is needed, just like there are the biotypes, the types of physical bodies, right? So there are the obvious things, obviously female, male, but there are, some that are taller, etc., the internal organs. So we have specific types of physical bodies, but just like that, there are different types of energetic bodies. There are different types of astral bodies. So the combination of all of that makes it so that certain sensations are more common with you the moment that you are having an out-of-body experience. So there are certain sensations, for example, that people mention that they are fairly common that I have never felt. I for example, in my book, I put them there because I realized that many people mention them. And I also mentioned this, that, they're very common for certain people. Other people are never going to feel them. So, yeah, you don't necessarily need to have a specific sensation, but there are probably going to be some sensations, maybe 4 or 5 of them, that are going to be fairly common to you, for you specifically, individually, personally. Then there are probably going to be another maybe 3 to 5 other sensations that you're going to feel only depending on the technique that you're practicing. So if let's say you usually don't practice techniques based on breathing, and that night you're going to practice a techniques based on breathing because it's a very specific technique, maybe different from the ones that you usually practice. That one sometimes ends up inducing a different sensation that is different from your set of 4 or 5 that are the most common ones. So depending on the technique that you're trying, sometimes you feel different sensations. And then there are others that you will never feel, and that's okay. Don't worry about it. At the end of the day, obviously, the main thing is to be able to disconnect with awareness. So you will have those sensations. And let me also say that is also where the repetition, comes in, because none of those sensations is really bad or good per se. They are just simply sort of like a reaction of us to what is happening. Any activity that we do produces a reaction or produces a sensation. So I say we walk and we feel, the floor and the soles of our feet as we are stepping on it, of course. And if we think about it, that's not really a bad sensation, but it's also not really good. We wouldn't say it's great that we feel it. No, it's just a sensation. Any activity carries a sensation. So these sensations, even though they are new, and that's why they sometimes surprise us, they scare us. Yeah, I remember when I was a teenager, a few times, some of them, they really like, oh, what's going on here? They really, really surprised me because they're different and they're not the type of sensations that you feel with your physical body, right? But after you get used to them, you just simply, you're feeling them, but you're not paying that much attention to them, more or less like, the sensation on the soles of your feet when you're walking. We feel them every time, but, probably none of us is really paying attention to that. We're more into, where we're going, right, into the activity, into the objective. So, you don't necessarily need to have a specific sensation in order to have an OBE, and they will vary.
Right. That's a great way to put it. I never thought of it that way. I like that.
Yeah.
One question I have for you is, I'm sure that you've tried over the years, many different techniques and many different ways that you have tried or failed. What is your most successful or preferred method that you use? And can you give us like kind of a nice little detailed start to finish of consciously projecting, like your experience consciously projecting using your favorite or preferred technique?
Sure. Let me say, first of all, yes, I have tried, I don't know, 50, 60, 70. Sometimes from time to time, I hear of a new one, that either somebody came up with, or, I read on a book, or a friend of mine actually in a book in Indonesia, I found something slightly different and I ended up trying it. So, I have tried many. What I would say, first of all, is that what seems to me is that maybe the ones that tend to have more, that people tend to, practice more, and probably they're the most popular ones. And I think that people have a fairly good results with them are the techniques that are based on imagination. So they tend to be very effective. And for most people, I think that's a good, not just a good starting point. Sometimes that's where they find, their technique, the technique that is going to fit better with them, with their body type, or with their complex of body types, so to speak. And I've had success with the imagination techniques. For me, the technique that probably consistently has worked a little better, throughout the decades now, has been one that is based on breathing, that I actually have on my book, is the carbon dioxide technique, which normally is a technique that most people dislike, I have to say. So don't think that because it works better for me, that is the technique. Yeah, no, it's just just for me, for my own specific, body type and experience. I used to be a swimmer when I was a teenager. So also I think that breathing and breathing underwater is something that comes very natural to me. And I think that that technique just clicked very well with my entire experience. So that one is the one that consistently I have used the most. But let me also say, uh, the first time that I tried that technique, and I guess, do I have time to explain it? I don't know if,
Yeah,
yeah,
you said you're good for about an hour, so we got 15 more minutes
okay,
if that's still good with you.
Mhm.
yeah. Let me summarize it so that so that this is not the last question. So basically, you lie down, you do your work with the energies, you're undisturbed, you don't want you know you uh, you don't want anybody to come into the room, etc., etc. So the key to this technique is that you're going to inhale, for example, in 1 second, hold the air for 4 seconds, and then exhale in 2 seconds. And then immediately, without waiting with the empty lungs, you inhale again in 1, you hold for 4, and you exhale for 2. 1, 4, 2. After more or less about 10 breaths in that fashion, now you start inhaling in 2 seconds, holding for 8, and releasing in 4. So 2, 8, 4, 2, 8, 4. Then after more or less 10 breaths, doing that, now you go to 3. So now you're inhaling in 3, you're holding for 12, and you're exhaling for 6. The ratio is always 1, 4, 2. You're just simply every more or less 10 breaths increasing, the amount of seconds, right? So you get to a point where you're inhaling, let's say in 5, holding 20, and exhaling in 10. 5, 20, 10. 5, 20, 10. For me, more or less when I get to 6, 6, 24, 12, that's when I already start to feel like a buzzing is still not a vibration. Sometimes there's a vibration, but most of the times it isn't. It's just the buzzing that I already start to feel. And then maybe like around the middle of the 6, already getting into the 7, I realized that when I am holding the air, I start feeling like my astral body starts to disconnect a little bit. So I am in the middle of, let's say, 6, 24, 12. When I am around the 12, 13, 14 of the 24, I feel like my astral body starts to disconnect a little bit. I eventually reach the 24. I start exhaling 12, right? And as I am exhaling, I feel that my astral body starts to return, almost as if the body is a little bit more engaged in an activity, in the breathing activity, and then the astral body returns. But on the next cycle, when I am again around the middle of the holding period, I feel that my astral body starts to disconnect a little bit more. Still, it returns when I exhale. And when I inhale, then when I am waiting again, it starts to disconnect a little bit more. And it goes on just with the cycle of breathing. It starts little by little to disconnect more and more and more. And when I am usually already on the 7, 28, 14, there are moments in which I am disconnecting a little bit more. And even my vision of my non-physical vision, the vision of the astral body sometimes already starts a little bit, and I can see the roof of my bedroom, the ceiling and the lamp and everything. But I know I'm still not fully disconnected, which is something that sometimes takes a little bit of experience to realize. Because I remember at the beginning when I would already start to feel some sensations, my first thought was to try to make an effort to go. Like, here I go, 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 go. And you start pushing, and you're not fully disconnected yet. So hold it, keep on going trust the process, I guess I would say. Now I would tell my younger self, trust the process. Because even though I'm already seeing a few things, I am still counting the numbers. I reach the end of the 28, I start exhaling, I feel that the astral body pulls back a little bit. The next time that I'm starting to disconnect, I see a little bit more, but then I come back until I feel that I am fully out, that I am disconnected, is when, okay, now I can stop the technique. And then I'm usually just already floating, close to the ceiling, really, and already out. And then normally when I am out, and this was a habit that I got since I was, I don't know, 22, 23 or so, when I learned to do the vertical flow, was just before leaving the bedroom, doing a vertical flow outside the body, so as to try to sort of like center my energies and to regain enough awareness to go at my sharpest, or at my most stable self, so to speak, so that I am not a little groggy the way sometimes you are when you're outside the body, but so that I am the way I am right now, or even sharper, and then yes, then I control it a little better, and then I go. That's the, I guess, the ideal disconnection for me. It doesn't happen all the time, but certainly your batting average increases, the more you practice, and then this type of a ideal disconnection starts to happen a little more often. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, the two I feel the most important takeaways, and one of the takeaways I still remember from your book. It's been a while since I've read it, honestly, but the one takeaway was that you talked about putting in the work every day. You talked about the need to put in the work every day, and what you just said there, even though that was your technique, trying a bunch of techniques, might work for somebody else, and one
Yeah.
might work for another person. So it's not just one thing that works. So I think that's a cool little takeaway. And Andrew, you want
Yeah.
to jump in for the last question? You think you want to do the last question?
Yeah, sure. Um, yeah, so I mean, just with your experiences, especially with out of body experiences, what do you think for you has been the most important thing you've learned through your your meditations or your out of body experiences? What's the thing you've kind of really taken away out of all of those so far?
I think that one of the most important things that it keeps coming back to me is just the importance of contribution, really, of trying to contribute with the world. Obviously, I am not, you know, I don't think that I am the most special person, or I am not, Jeff Bezos that can give a ton and everything, but just simply the value of trying to improve the world, to give back, to contribute, to help, with whatever skills you happen to have. So whether it is, giving energy to try to help somebody, or trying to give some of your knowledge, in so many different, layers, because um, certainly the ideas of the out of body experience, I consider them, so unique, really, and so to a certain extent, even advanced, because I feel that many people haven't even by mistake had the chance to come across this information that could help
Yeah.
them quite a bit. Obviously, when we talk about things like overcoming the fear of death, and this is also why I like quite a bit my friends at the IANS groups, that they are trying to wrap their head around that idea that I, as I know myself, I'm gonna completely cease to exist. What does that mean? and
Right.
and it is a very big idea to wrap your head around. But once you have the out of body experience in your tool chest, so to speak, then that idea, you're able to organize it better in your mind, and you're able to keep on being productive. So contributing with this type of information is great. It's just that I consider it unique. So contributing with all the other layers, of information or of skills that any of us have, I think it's one of the most important things. And even sometimes there have been a few periods in, a few months in which I have left a little bit my OBEs, like on the side, because I was involved in a project that, maybe some people would consider very mundane,
Hmm.
but it was the contribution that was necessary at that moment for that group, for those individuals, etc. And that's okay.
Hmm.
So I think contribution, assistance, helping, I think is one of the most important things that I've learned from all of this. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Cool.
Great.
Yeah, and we definitely thank you so much for contributing to our podcast, to our channel. This has been really great and really informative. Do you want to tell people uh, where they can get in touch with you and kind of get what's your info and you know
Where to
Yeah,
get your
yeah, yeah,
book?
yeah,
yeah
yeah.
and the book. You want to hold up the book so they can see what the book looks like and
Sure. Hopefully, it's not going to intimidate anybody. So it's the
no,
size
it's a
of my
great
head.
it's,
I like
it's a
it.
great read. I've read it before. It's a good book.
Let me see. Oh yeah, yeah. So demystifying the out-of-body experience. You can find it anywhere, really. You can find it on Amazon. You can find it on Google Books. You can. I think they also have it in electronic format and everything. So yeah, that's the book is certainly a good way to get started with all of this information, and even and not just get started, certainly to get started, but also if you want to go in deeper, and it has a lot of techniques, a lot of different instructions. Even on the later chapters, I mentioned that sometimes I mentioned it in the classes. I don't remember if I put it there. By the way, Damon, I also read my book a long time ago, so I don't remember exactly what is it that I wrote there. But uh, sometimes I say some of the instructions that are given in the last chapters are probably the type of experiences that you won't necessarily have tonight or in a week, but that probably you will be very glad 3 years down the road, when you are facing that experience, you're going to be very glad that you already read this before, because you're going to realize, this is what he was talking about, there, that chapter 3 years ago. So yeah, you can get fairly deep, into the out-of-body experiences with the book.
And
And
the classes, how do
yes,
they get in touch with you for classes and things like that?
yes, you read my mind.
Yeah.
And, yeah, and with the classes, so Mosaic Wellness and Health, we're a collection of instructors, researchers there giving classes all over, especially nowadays online, because that's what we're all we're all doing lately. But the website is mosaicwe.com. So MOSAICWE, right? .com. And that's probably the best way, to look at the calendar of activities, to find those. Obviously, we have also a Facebook page, Mosaic Wellness and Health. You're going to find us there as well. And yeah, we have classes, every month, every couple of months, specifically of out-of-body experiences, probably every couple of months, plus several other topics, even including meditation and different types of topics that other instructors, colleagues of mine, they offer. And even for people for whom this might be fairly new, every month we have like an open, like sort of like an open night Q&A session, and always one of the instructors is there, and you can log in and ask anything that you want, about the classes, about sensations, about anything. And this is open for anybody, meaning you don't need to have taken the classes before in order to participate in that. No, just
Cool.
anybody who wants that. So usually I think it's the first Monday of each month. So that as well. It's
Very cool.
another thing that is accessible. Yeah.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, we always like to end, our episodes just with a tip, just a very simple kind of tip. What is something you'd like to share just to the audience that you think is helpful? Just maybe just someone getting into this that would be helpful for them.
Somebody who's getting into out-of-body experience, I would say probably approach it with an open mind. The world, the universe is so much bigger than what we see at this moment here with our physical eyes. And even from a science standpoint, we always keep on finding new things that make us rethink everything that we knew from before. So approach them with an open mind. Don't be afraid to hit refresh on your ideas, to renew your concepts, and the out-of-body experiences will surprise you, will challenge you. So approach it with an open mind.
Excellent.
Cool. Well, thanks again. Thanks everybody for listening and watching. And this has been Surf the Astral. We hope everybody's enjoyed.
Yeah,
Thank you again, guys, for your contribution.
absolutely. Appreciate having you on.